Hello everyone, and in this video I'll show you the step-by-step to build this project with just HTML and CSS, which I applied a bit of keyframe CSS animations, including this one here. And this is a challenge from Front-End Mentor, which is a very cool platform. And if you want to subscribe to their services, you have the option to on free challenges and premium ones. Today I'm going to build this one here. And once you download their files, you're going to find an HTML, a basic HTML, which I just applied the Google fonts already. And then as well, you're going to find the design you have to build, right? So let's start the process to make this card. And to make this card, I'm going to have this div for the card, which is going to have basically three parts. And the first part will be the header of the card. Then we're going to have the body and the footer of this card. This is probably how I'm going to call it. And in the body part, you're going to find the picture of the user, then the name and city. In the footer part, you're going to find the three elements with the information. To move the image up, I'll just use the margin top negative. So let's start. So the way I'm going to build this project here, let's start only with the HTML part, which we find the section. I'm going to call it main section. And later I'm going to include the circles. For the moment, let's just work in the card element, which I'm going to call a card. And in this card, we're going to have the card header to receive this background image right there. We're going to have also the card body, let's call this way, and the card footer. Which is a div called card footer. And of course you could also consider this as an entire block and then dividing this later, but I think this is a good way to organize your code. Then in the card body, we're gonna have three elements, which is the picture of the user, his name and the age aside, and the city. Well, for this card body, then I'm gonna have the image here. I'm gonna call it image, which is here, images, and you have image vector. I sometimes like to use the image inside the div because I don't like to resize image. So let's do it. I'm going to make it inside the div called image holder and apply the image inside it. So this div is going to control the size of the image. Well, we could think this as a dynamic in the future if this is going to receive dynamically any picture. So let's try to simulate that. And here we're gonna have this h2, which is gonna be called name and age. Well, this is going to be for Victor Crest. And he has 26 years old, so this is going to be the age, 26. And by the way, I am using the h2 tags. I'm not worrying about referencement for Google or something like this, and this is not even my specialty. But if you have any other suggestion on how you would call this element, this tag here, please let the comments below. After this, we're gonna have the h3 for the city, which is longer. Okay, so this is the body of my card here, and this is what I'm going to call the card footer. So for the card footer, we're gonna have three items. In each item, we have, let's call it h4, and this is the value you're gonna have, which for the first one is hk, and for the second element, for the second information, I'm going to use an h5, and this will be, let's call it meta followers. Okay, I'm just gonna call it meta for, I don't know, I like this name. Well, and we have a second item and a third one. Second one, 803 likes. Of course, you can do the capitalize using the CSS. It's actually ideal. And then I'm going to have the 1.4K, and this is for photos. So this is pretty much the HTML we're going to need. Pretty simple. And let's see if that works. Eventually, it could be a good idea to include body and footer in in a separate div and just have it in a one div, and then the header in another div, instead of having three of those. But let's keep this one for a moment. In my CSS, I just applied a couple of properties there and selectors. So I'm giving font size 18 pixels for the root, then a little reset here. It's very, very simple, very typical. And then for the body, I am applying the font family as default, and also the color dark by default. This level of dark color here. So let's see what we have so far. We only have the HTML and nothing else. Okay, so let's start. Well, for this moment, I really like to code the CSS trying to do it without looking the browser. So we can start doing this way, and then eventually you're going to change for the browser, okay? So for this section, I'm going to need a background color, of course. And the background color will be, just call it background. For the background color, I'm going to get this dark cyan that was provided by in the style guide there. So I'm going to give this level for background, and then we're going to have a height of 100 VH. I want it to complete the entire height of the available space of the screen, and then the display flex, and justified content center, align items will be centered as well. I'm not going to make it responsive, just make it for desktop for this tutorial, otherwise it's going to be too long. Well, this is the code I need for the section, and of course position relative to include the animations later. Alright, so for the card, let's take a look before how it looks. Okay, this looks already nice, cool. And then we have this footer here, which I'm going to work this later. So for the card, we're going to establish a width. And I'm trying to not check their files for the design in Sketch or other app, because it's a very good exercise, in my opinion. It's a great exercise to develop and train your eyes on design skills. So you can try to make it with the same visual without looking the exact spacing and sizes and other information provided in the files if you sign the Pro member in the Front-End Mentor. But the thing is that, of course, if you're working for an agency that you have to rush, well, in this case, you have to check the information. But as an exercise, I think it's really cool. Try to make it exactly the exact same, but without looking into the values. So for the card, here they provide the information that this, in the mobile version, this would be 375. So here I can imagine that it's 375 less a little bit for this spacing there. So that's why I'm going to apply it at 350 pixels. And we also have other stuff. For example, you could make the border radius in the card, but I'm not really sure, but if I remember well, we should not apply this to the card itself, but to the elements inside the card. So the header and the footer will have this border radius. I'm going to try anyways, border radius of 20 pixels, and I believe it's not going to, oh, of course, and a background white. Otherwise we can't see it. So yeah, as you can see here, the border radius is working actually, but once we apply a background image, I'm not sure if this is going to continue to work. So, and of course, we're going to replace this element here. So let's check together. I cannot memorize everything, I'm sorry. So for the card, we have a card header, which is the element that is going to receive a background image. And the background size will be cover. And we need to apply a height, which I'm going to give 150 pixels at the moment. And for the background image is going to be images / pattern card. Let me just make it to have toggle word. Okay, cool. Then for this card header, I have the height, background size, cover, background image. Am I missing something? Let's check. Okay, sure. So as we can see here, the card is not applying. What if I give the overflow hidden to the card? yeah, in this case it works. Okay, so that is probably the best idea. So the other thing I want to do, it looks looking cool already. Huh? So for the card as well, I'm going to apply the text align center. So I want to generalize using the card because all the text in this code is in the center, and the image as well. So as you can see here, the image is already in the center, looking cool. So let's make it the code for, and the card header is done. So now we need to make it for the image. We have an image holder. So just one thing that I cannot remember exactly. Okay, I have the image holder. It's just strange. The image is coming to the center with the text align center, but the image is actually inside the div. I was not expecting this to work. Very interesting. Because usually the image go to the center when, okay, when you say card text align center, the image goes to the center, but not a div. So for some reason this is working now. Surprise, but that's cool, a good surprise. So let's continue. Then in the card header, well, the next element will be the image holder. The image holder, we're going to apply a border radius at 50% to make it round. Also a border, 5 pixels solid white. And the last thing I want to do is the overflow as well, because I don't want to duplicate the code for our image holder. Is that the right name? Image holder, image holder, yes. And then I have the image inside. Okay, well, let me make the image to fill image holder, and then it's going to be a width of 100%, a height will be auto, and a display block to avoid the little phantom white space in the bottom. Oh, too big. Okay, now it makes sense. So, well, the div is 100%. That's why it was looking to be centered. So the div was in 100%, and the image inside this div that had the limited size was looking centered because of this reason. But in my case, I want to limit the size of the image holder. So this is the element that will control the size of the image, using a width, let's say 90 pixels, and a height of 90 pixels. Now it's going to be aligned to the left, as we can see here. Actually, maybe a bit bigger, let's say 95 maybe. And then as you can see here, the image is on the left. So we need to make this div that contains the image to go here. I could just use the image directly without using the image holder. It can be a good idea. Let me think. Well, I will need to apply margins anyway. So let's just make the margins. And so the margin on the top, I need to make this element go up a certain amount, right? So the way I'm going to do that is that I have to bring 95 divided by 2 and make it go up in margin negative. But I still have 5 pixels from the border as well. So this will be probably negative 50 is the right amount to go, because I'm not going to apply paddings in this area here. So let's test the minus 50 pixels, and then in the sides I want auto, and in the bottom I need to make this space between the image holder and the name of the user. So I need to apply, let's say this looks like 30 pixels or something around that, and this will be 30 pixels for the bottom, and then auto as well for the left, sorry. And this is what we have so far. Okay, looking cool. I think this image is still not in a good proportion related to the card, but I'm also not sure if this is the ideal width for the entire card. I will just increase this to 100 for the moment. Okay, looking good. So let's work in the H2, which we need to reduce the size, and also the 26 and everything else. So let's work in our text elements right now. This is what we call the card body. So if you see here, we have a space there. And what I would like to plan, and it's always, okay, but what happens if this card is in a dynamic environment that the name of the user is super long, for example, and there is no limit in terms of characters limit. Well, that could eventually bring the name to be touching the edges. So in this case, I want to apply to the card body, I forgot here, dot card body. I want to apply some paddings on the sides, and in this case also here in the bottom to create this empty space. So I'm going to apply a padding. Will be, I don't want padding on top, I want padding on the sides, and to the bottom will be, let's say, 30 pixels. Let's see how it looks. We don't see much of difference because we still don't have the lining here. We're gonna see the difference once I try testing with a long name, and then we're gonna see the name is not gonna touch the edges. Alright, so now we almost close to finish this one. We have the image holder, the image itself, and then let's make it the name and age. Name and age will have a font size of 1 rem, so 18 pixels. And that's probably what, no, we need also some margin bottom to create this distance here. I like to use margin bottoms to create distance between one block of element and the next one. For me, this is the natural way to work because it keeps the natural flow of the things in HTML and CSS, which is from the left to the right and from the top to the bottom. So I just keep following the natural flow, and the margin, it makes sense to me. And then the margin bottom will be 20 pixels. For now, we're going to adjust all in the end. And margin bottom 20 pixels. Well, what I need as well is to consider the age having a font weight, a different font weight. And for this font weight, let me try the 400. And it has also a different color, but here you actually can see a pattern where this number, the name of the city, and these elements in there, they have the same color, and they also not bold. So the only things we see bolding here is the H2 and then the values in there. So for this purpose, I'll just generalize, giving to the age, to the city, and to the meta the same font weight. So I don't need to establish it in there. And the same color, which I will use probably, let me try this one, but I'm going to apply some opacity. I'm not sure if I want to, well, let's try opacity, 0.8 maybe, and see how it looks. Okay, not enough, not too much. Okay, nice. A little bit. No, I think this is cool. Well, I think this is a good moment to maybe start putting side by side the style and the site itself, right? So I'm just going to reduce this window here. Okay, that's cool. Right. So let's continue. In the style.css, I'm gonna have then to make, I'm gonna make the line that separate the body and the footer. So this will give me a better idea in terms of, positioning the elements. So the next thing I want to do is to get the card footer and apply a border top, 1 pixel solid, and it will be, let's say, gray for the moment. Yeah, it's too dark, so maybe the light gray. And actually they have a light gray coding here suggested by, so this will be the dark gray color they provide. I'm going to use it. Okay. The space, and that's nice. Saving. I might need maybe lighter. Let's say this much. Yeah, I think it looks a little bit better. If we check the design here, it's super light. So let me try even lighter. Okay, cool. Looks nice now. Okay, I'm gonna fix the margins in another moment. In the card footer, we have items. So each item, and by the way, in the card footer as well, we're going to have a display flex to make the elements stay side by side. And if my elements are in display flex, I want to also apply here to the card item a width. Actually, I'm going to give a flex 1 to make them have the same space. And this is also the element that are going to hold the height, because I want to center that information using display flex technique as well. So this will be 100 pixels probably. Looks nice. And display flex, flex direction will be column. And I have the justify content, center, align items, center. Okay, cool. But there's one thing I wanna check, because if we see in here, there's a big distance in the sides, right? So it seems like the card footer itself has some kind of padding here, and this is something I would like to try. So if we apply these paddings on the sides right here, let's see what happens. So no paddings on the top and bottom, but maybe 10 or 15 pixels on the sides might be enough. Maybe more. What about 25? Yeah. So it looks more realistic. Oh, actually a bit more. But let's keep this way. Yes. So definitely the name of the user should be very similar to the values in there. Okay, this letter V looks a lot like the same size of this letter K. So let me go ahead and just change this. Let me try first to, in the card footer, item value will be a font size of 1 rem, and margin bottom, a small margin bottom, maybe 5 or 6 pixels. I'll let the margins in pixels. I want it to be static. I mean, I don't want it to be relative. I want to be an absolute distance. And then for the card footer item, item and the meta, I want to make them to be a font size .8 rem probably. Let me check. A bit smaller. That's 7 rem, and also they have a letter spacing, probably 1 pixel. I want to also let the letter spacing should be. You know what? I'm trying to put this this element here. I'm not sure if it's possible. Oh, actually, in a new window. Yeah, cool. So I can take a look here and see that you can see that these informations there, they definitely have some letter spacing, right? And this is my, I don't need this, and this is the one I have now. So let's fix now the size of the value and the size for also the name of the user, because they seem to be the same. And then I'm not sure if I am using the correct. So let me try 1.2 and 1.1. Okay, the 1.1 looks more balanced. And in the age, I want more distance. It's definitely the case here. We have a little bit distance between this span and the other element item. If you have a suggestion about how to make this name and age side by side, please let in the comments below. I'm going to use here in the margin left 6 pixels as well. And definitely the margin bottom and the name age is not that big. So I'll try just 12 pixels. Oh, one thing I forgot, definitely forgot, is the city. Since this is general, I should let it is in the beginning. Makes more sense to be here. So here I have the city, which I forgot to apply a font size. Will be, let's say, 1 rem. What do you think? Does it look similar, well balanced, in a good size? I'm not sure. Probably make this a little bit lighter for these elements there. It will be 0.5. And then the font size, yes, definitely I'll try it a bit smaller, so 0.8, 0.9. Okay, nice. Okay, so Victor Crest 26 London, the distance here and the distance here look the same. So for me it looks fine. I just want to make sure to reduce a little bit the padding in there. So this is the padding that I find in my card body, which is actually in the moment 30 pixels. So I want to reduce this for 20. So let's just make 0 on top, 20 on the sides, and then 20 as well here. Not ideal. 25. Okay, cool. Well, this looks, now it looks cool. It looks nice. Of course, we could work a little bit more to make it perfect. We could have check in the files, in the design files using Photoshop or other of your preference. But I just want to try to make it as similar as possible without checking this stuff. This picture looks bigger than mine. Yeah, the picture looks bigger for sure. And what else? What else? Well, the followers, they have to have more space, but they actually a bit smaller. And since they are a bit smaller, and I'm using a letter spacing with pixels, I guess this is gonna make the job. So let's just increase the size of the picture even more for 110, and of course I need to change this here, 55, and the size of the meta will be 0.6, and I think I am happy with this final result. So let's start now with the animations. Well, we need to position the circles in there and here. And also we need to work on this. This is going to be the last element for the footer. If you're liking this coding section, I hope you are enjoying. Please let a comment below, click on the thumbs up, and consider subscribing to the channel. This video is being a big pleasure to make it for you. So let's continue. Now I need to make the circles elements, right? So for this I am gonna use my section as the relative element, which is right here, and I'm going to position the circles in there. I want the circles behind the divs by default. So what I'm gonna do is pretty simple. I have this circles div right there, and I can apply the images directly. Why not? So I have this image from images slash, and we have the pattern top for the big circle on top, and this is going to be the images bottom, and I'm gonna also make them to have the how do you call a class, right? So this class will be C01. Well, this is going to be C02. Circle 1, circle number 2, because they have specificities, right? Of course, this is a mess right now, but we're going to fix this in a second. So this is how I am going to apply this circle. And then in my style.css, first thing we're going to make, so I'm going to make this here as graphics, circles. I really enjoy to include comments to organize my code. Then in these circles and img, I'm going to give them a position absolute. Both have position absolute, and also I will give them, I think that's all for the moment. Then the circles C1, I also have the circles C02. Oh, actually, yeah, C02. I can make this way, but you know what? I'm just going to make them in this way. Circles dot c1 and comma dot circles dot c2, and they have position absolute. Cool. This guy here is on top and 0 for the moment, and left 0 as well. I'm going to make this change, and this is on the bottom 0, and right will be 0. I probably need, what did I do wrong? Okay, so as you can see, the circles are too big at this point, or maybe I just need to position them outside of the section, and the size is just the right one already. But the first thing I want to do, if I want to place the circles behind the card, I could change the z-index, but I want to try something. I'm not sure if I can just give a z-index. Let's try here. Of 0 is probably not going to work. It's not going to work. If I put negative, it's not going to work as well, because it goes behind everything. So the thing here, I'm not going to establish a z-index to this element. Instead, I'm just going to give to my card the position relative, and this is going to solve the problem. The position relative here. So I can now establish a z-index for my card as well, if this is the case. Well, which I will. I want the card to be... No, I'm not going to do that. We're not going to need to establish the z-index in this case. Okay, cool. So now we need to find the exact positioning for these two circles right there. And for my first circle, C1, I'm going to try using the inspector. So using this inspector here, I'm going to increase the size. So if you're watching this in the telephone, it's going to be a more pleasant experience. So this is going to be negative minus something, and then to the left negative as well. So, but still these cards, these circles are looking too big. So I'm gonna check what sizes they have right now. They have 90, 78 pixels. What if we reduce them to have, let's say, a width 800 pixels, and hide auto, even if it's not necessary. So now I can go here, and then I can establish, and another thing I will do is to give to the section the overflow hidden as well. Okay, so I still need to move my circles a lot, by a lot, right? So this will be top negative. Okay, so let's find the right amount, around 1400. Okay, so this will be minus 110 maybe, and then let's put it back to the left, trying to make it in the right corner, still more negative to the top. Okay, this is starting to look similar to the result, that the intended result. So minus 230, minus 175. Well, I guess this is the right way to go. If you have other suggestions, please do not hesitate to share in the comments. So this is minus 233, minus 175. Let's apply it here. Minus 233 pixels. I'm going to make minor adjustments if necessary, and minus 175. Well, I would just basically apply the same in here, but in this case, yeah, why not? Minus 233 pixels and minus 175 pixels to the right. What you think? I'm not sure if I like it. I'm not sure if this is enough. And why this is going outside? Oh, of course, I forgot to apply to this section element the overflow hidden. Okay, so this is looking nice. I probably need to change a little bit still. So let's just check here the mobile design, and yeah, well, it looks cool, huh? I think this is good enough for the moment. Actually, we're gonna move this circle here a little bit more down and this little bit more up. So probably let's try it in 280, 300, right? 300 here as well. And let's see how it looks like. Okay, so I'm gonna let it this way. And finally, if you want to apply animations for these elements, well, both elements are going to have the same animation. They are going to go to the transform translate 0. So if they have the same animation, I'm going to give them in a 2 seconds, for example, a circles. Then I'm going to make them forwards because I don't want them to stop at the final position. And this is going to be in a transform translate, and let's say minus 100 pixels horizontal and minus 100 pixels vertical. Maybe I want them coming from not so distant here. Okay, actually the opposite. So I want to make this probably in this way. Let's try it. And then here I'm going to make the same, but no negative values. So this and that. And then the animation is basically going to bring them back to translate 0, and also the opacity 0 here. To opacity 1. The animation keyframes circles, which has a 0% moment and opacity 0. I cannot apply the translate to transform translate here, but I guess this is not going to be necessary. Even the opacity, I'm not sure if this is completely necessary, but let's try this way. And then the opacity would be 1, and the transform translate would be 0. Let's check. So yeah, you can make them to have different delays maybe. So if you don't want them to appear at the same moment, you can apply a transform delay or a animation delay actually. But I keep this very simple. Well, the idea is just to make something a little bit cool and practice the animations using keyframes. Okay, and now about this footer right here, I also want to make it an animation in a way that when we pass the mouse in here, this is going to move up. So the idea is to use pseudo elements and consider this as an over. So when I over the object, it's going to move up. I'm not totally sure how I'm going to make it, but let's do it together. For this purpose, I'm going to include this attribution inside my section element. So this is the attribution. And then let's give it paste. So your name there, coding sections. Okay, cool. So for the next part, let's go to, yeah, and as you can see, it's in there because of the display flags. But we're gonna go and make first. Let me bring back it here. Okay, much easier to work with. So the first thing I want to make for this element will be graphic circles. Well, let me bring this here. So I'm going to keep this, the class name is attribution. attribution. This guy will have position absolute as well, and I'll bring it to outside of the section. So this is going to be a bottom, and I was planning to use the top 100% to bring it outside in the bottom part, but when I need to use the over, I want to make this, how can I use the top as a reference? I'm not sure if this is the best idea. So I'm just going to keep it in the bottom 0, left 0, and the width will be 100%, and the height, I don't like to establish a height, so I'm gonna just make some padding. Well, if I need to know how much, okay, let's try this way. As you can see, it is in the body right now, but what if I give a transform and translate y of 100%? This is going to go outside of the window, right? In 100% of the size of the element itself. Then, if this element is already in position absolute, so what if we give to this element attribute a pseudo element before, and this is going to be just that area that will be hoverable. So this content will be like that. I'm going to make a background, so just to have a visual reference, going to be gray. And this element has a width of 100%, a height, so let's say 50 pixels. And it's going to be in the bottom 100% and left 0, and of course before that I put position absolute as well. The problem here is that the element is not appearing. For some reason I put it translate 100%. So let me just remove temporarily the position relative from this element. I want to check why this is not working as I was supposed to work. So here, as you can see, this element is still there, okay, right here, but for some reason, very strange, that I cannot understand right now, this solution is not going to be the best to use a pseudo element of the attribution. Oh, so that's probably why I brought class. Okay, that was the reason. Okay, now it makes sense. So I have this pseudo element here, which is this gray area. So what I need to do is, once you over the attribution, and this gray area is considered as the attribution, when I over it, it's just going to move up, and I want it with a little how do we call? I forgot the name right now. The name is Jesus. I completely forgot the name of the property. Transition. Thank you. Yes. The transition of 0.5 seconds. Don't want it to take long. About 4 seconds. Okay. Then once you over it, this element is gonna go to transform, of course. Translate y equals 0. Okay, cool. So when you over it, oh, not working. For what reason? Attribution over translate y 0. It should work. It should be working. Okay, now it works. Yeah, strange. Cool, huh? So let me give this item. Okay, I'm gonna give this some padding. Will be 20 pixels. Yeah, 20 pixels. And a background white and a text align center. So this is what we have now. So when you go here close to the body, to the bottom of the page, you're gonna see everything. Looks cool, huh? Of course, I'm not gonna keep this gray area. If you want, you can give it a very light gray color and apply an RGBA and give it a super discrete opacity level if you really want, right? Then maybe this will be in a more positive, the circles could be in covering that item. So these circles, which is right here, circles will be in the index higher, say 20. Or not, still not covering this element because it comes after. But what if I give to this element here a z index of 10? Still not working. Or probably because this element also has a opacity level. So what we're gonna do, probably just taking this out. Okay. Right? And removing this z index from the circles, of course. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. It was very fun to create it. One more time, thank you Front-End Mentor to provide it to us. And in the next video, or in the next days, I'll be posting a lot of tutorials. Thank you very much, and I see you next time.